Hello, Puget Sound community. This is Jake Nelko from Career and Employment Services. Today, as part of the Ask a Logger series, we're joined by Josh McDonald, a politics and government major from the class of 2002. Josh is currently serving as the executive director at the Washington Wine Institute in Olympia, Washington. Although my conversations with you, Josh, sounds like Olympia is just one of the many places where you spend a lot of your time working, which I'm sure we'll get into in a second. Thanks so much for joining me, Josh.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jake. I'm honored. I sharing my professional story and how I, came to where I am today, and then anything I could do to help our current students, folks who are students who are trying to figure out what to do post graduation, as well as what it's like out there in the real world. I'm all about trying to tell my story if that can help any of our students at all too. So happy to do it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And Josh, you're someone that I've talked with students about in the past because you've worked on campaigns, you've worked in different areas of government and government relations, and in your job, we were just chatting offline that you would describe yourself a bit as mostly in a lobbyist kind of position. So I will want to touch on those things in a minute, but why don't you start by describing your current job and employer?
Sure. So my current role, my title is, as you mentioned, is executive director, and the association that I work for, that I'm operating, is called the Washington Wine Institute. And what it is, it's a nonprofit trade association. A lot of our industries out there, business and even agriculture, otherwise, they have trade associations, which are nonprofit entities that are built to help these small businesses and businesses generally with whatever needs they have. So whether it's navigating government, which is a lot of what I do, or just getting them prompt communication, or other related types of needs that a small business owner might need that they don't have time to do because they're trying to run their business and they're trying to be successful and think about all those things. We do all that for them, and also try to find ways to give them more operational support and financial support through saving them money and so on. So in my role as the executive director, I first and foremost, my job is to, as mentioned, and my degree in politics led me to this. That is, I am the Washington wine industry's lobbyist. So that means I go to Olympia from January through when the legislative session ends here in our state, and I work on pieces of legislation that help our wineries be more successful, or be able to sell wine in a new way, or be able to market their wine in a new way. Alcohol is a very controlled product. It's a privilege for as a state and country to sell such a product. So, and there's a lot of rules around it. It's the only thing in our nation that has gone through full prohibition and come back again. And so a lot of rules, a lot of laws around it. So I spend a lot of time navigating those, helping our wineries, trying to modernize our laws and rules so wineries can sell their wine in Washington in a more of a 2020 way, rather than something that could be decades old. And then also telling our legislators, our folks who we elect, that why we're important. Why should you care about the Washington wine industry? So I spent a lot of time in building from going through University of Puget Sound and all my other professional expertise, building the communications and the sort of the story of who we are, why we're important, and presenting that to our elected officials so that they do care about us and they will help us.
Great, thanks for explaining all that, Josh. I touched a little bit on how your career path has been of interest to students. So, knowing that your audience is current students and students that are about to graduate, or maybe even people who have graduated recently that are pivoting, why don't you tell the audience a bit about what your path was and some of the roles that you've taken that have gotten you to where you're at?
Sure. Yeah, no, I think it's incredibly important to my professional story, as well as what I try to emphasize to current students when I get a chance, and recently graduated students. So first off, and I can't stress this, or at least recommend this enough, is get internships. When possible, I was able to spend my junior year, my senior year doing internships. And that is where you meet people, create relationships outside of college, real professional working people who, if you impress with whatever they ask you to do, it's going to mean a lot when you get done, either from them wanting to hire you or just recommending you to people. And that's going to move you up, give you a leg up whenever you're applying for a job. Now more than ever, even back in the days when I was much younger and starting my professional career, just the social aspect and the relationship aspect is I can't stress that enough. So I started with internships, which led me directly into my first job because they knew me, liked me, and were interested in hiring me. And that was on a campaign for then our congressman at the time for the Tacoma area. His name was Norm Dix. He's since retired, but I worked on his campaign, and I was 21 years old and just trying to figure out how to do things. So in my, for my profession, and this is, I think, similar in a lot of different professions too, is, you get asked to do whatever. You get asked to do something that feels so menial to important things. And what I can stress, what I want to stress here is say yes to everything and do it as strong as best as you can to the best of your ability, because all you can do at that time in your professional career is impress, and that's going to pay off for you. So for me, I went from that and I worked really hard and tried to be successful and found enough success. They asked me to come back in 2004 and help run the campaign. So I got a chance to actually run a congressional campaign. I did very well there. And then from there, met lots of people and did about 6 years from there of different campaigns, from city council in Tacoma to state senate race in Gig Harbor, who's now our Congressman Derek Kilmer, to school bonds and school levies, which are some of my most proudest accomplishments, because that's rebuilding schools in our communities and giving students and children, a modern place to learn. Is very cool. But it was a ton of work, and I really just did whatever needed to get done. And again, I can't stress that enough, as far as just do everything you can to the best of your ability, and never just say yes. And it'll pay off for you. So I did that through, and then through all of that, I met a lobbyist who was just a really nice guy and liked me a lot, liked my work. And he offered me this rare opportunity to come to Olympia and learn what it's like to do what he does, and opened a door for me that was really hard door to open. Even now in my role, I understand how fortunate I was, and he opened that door for me, and I worked for several lobbyists. I got to learn how they work. I impressed them, and through that, I got my next job, which was working for the Washington Restaurant Association for 7.5 years. I built their local government program, which means I helped give them a voice in City Hall in Seattle, Tacoma, and other related towns across the state. But I also did state level lobbying work and worked in a government affairs team. So I know what that's like to also not just work on your own, but work with a team and be a part of a team environment. And then in 2014, I got a call, and I've worked there. Those in the wine industry and others, Washington wine industry, liked what I was doing and offered me the opportunity to run their association. So go up to become an executive director. So couldn't say no to such an offer. And it has given me, the ability to learn a lot. I will, that's where I am now. And I will say, just a parting piece on this part of advice for all of our students is, as you go through your professional career, it's really important to pay attention to, in each job you take, what are the things you enjoy, and what are the things you don't enjoy, and then take those things, hold on to them. And when you're looking at what do I want to do next, make sure you put those things in front of you and say, is this next job have more of what I like to do and less of what I don't like to do? And I've done this before too, kind of jumping from one job to another. Sometimes you're not always paying attention to, all of that job asks of you and whether or not you are going to enjoy all of that. And that seems a little elementary, but it's an important point, is just as you continue to move through, paying attention and build yourself more and more towards a profession of surrounding you with things you enjoy doing and less with things you don't, as much as you possibly can control it. So that's been my journey so far.
That's great advice. And our students I wanted you to talk a little bit about that, because the students, especially the politics and government students, often want to end up in some of the places that you've ended up. And so all that's really helpful to hear. I mean, I think I'll kind of help to reiterate and maybe summarize some of the things that I've said to students too, where it's a lot about just putting yourself in positions to be known and to make good impressions. And it sounds like, that's been the story of your career to this point. I know it's really common in politics and government areas, but it's happens everywhere. So I'm glad that you provide some of that advice. Shifting gears a little bit, since a couple of my questions were about like what advice would you give, and you've been touching on those things. What is something that you wish you would have done as an undergrad that would have prepared you better for life after graduation, that maybe you didn't do or didn't do as early as you wish you would have?
I think I mentioned I did internships, but I would have done more. I would have worked more with the University UPS's career development team and folks like you, Jake, and others to ask the questions and sort of get to better understand myself and understand what do I want to be when I come out of here. And so from that, going to Ask Night, which is important, and I wish I did one, I think, but I wish I would have done more as far as attending them and just asking lots of questions. So by the way, those great folks that are at those kind of things like Ask, they're there to answer your questions. So don't be shy. This is where it's your opportunity to learn. You can only learn. You can do nothing but learn in this role. So I wish I would have done more in that realm. Glad I did what I did, but the more real world experience you can get, the better. And the more questions you ask, even if you go out and just shadow interview people. A lot of folks out in our community in whatever profession you want to sort of gear yourself towards, they'd be happy to spend a half hour with you with a cup of coffee, just telling you what they do and how they got there. The more you can learn, that the better on that. And best you can do is to, if you're a shy person, trying to push past that if you can, but just going out there and asking questions and getting as many internships and opportunities as you can, even if they're unpaid. I know that's not always fun, but the experience is absolutely worth it. And when you come out, and I was fortunate in the political world that I came out and was able to get on a campaign, which they don't ask a lot of you as far as resume. They just want to make sure that you will do whatever they ask, and you are comfortable calling people and asking them how they want to vote, or knocking on thousands of doors. Not everyone loves to do that kind of stuff, or willing to do it. But the more you can build your resume, the stronger you when you come out, when you try to get your first job, the more that's on there that's real is going to pay off for you. And you're going to go out into a job market where lots of the people are vying for the same jobs you are. So, what's going to rise above that is your resume, as well as people around the community and around the country to some extent that are willing to vouch for you and say, this is the person that this company should be hiring. So, okay, that would be, I think, the best advice I can offer any current UPS student.
Cool. And on the flip side, a kind of an opposite question, what is something that you worried about as an undergrad or as a new professional that you wish you wouldn't have worried about so much?
Well, I mean, I think, and it's kind of tied to my just answer I just provided, is I wish I would have been a little more secure in that professionals out there are willing to talk to me, are willing to answer any questions I have, are willing to be very social with me and get to know me. And I'm obviously changed a lot because in my role as a lobbyist and someone who talks to both local and national media, gets in front of large audiences to speak on important topics. I've fought past my shyness and my introvertness, but some of us have that, and it can be a challenge to push yourself through that. And I had that in undergrad, a little bit of a hesitation to go out and to ask real professionals, what do I need to be you? How did you get there? And then I also being a little too shy to go to our services like what you're doing, Jake, and ask questions and get to know and get to better understand and feel like I'm more prepared for that day after graduation when you go, what am I doing with myself? And I don't regret who I am or what I was, but if I could go back, I would talk to myself about being a little more brave and get myself out there. And that's what's going to propel you forward.
Awesome. What would you say, so you've given a lot of good advice especially for the seniors maybe who are getting ready to graduate next month. What's what's one piece of highly practical advice that you would give for them to take a first step that's similar to yours? Let's say they're interested in campaign work. Let's say they're interested in working in lobbying at some point. What is like, where should they look? Who should they meet? What is like one really practical thing that they can do to start working in that direction?
There's several, but I'll try to do my best to just touch on one or two. I think that they should be kind of grounded on expectation. I mean, my first job was, literally I knocked on something like 6,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 doors, made 6,000 phone calls to strangers. That's not glory work. That's just work. But I said yes, and what I did through that was I got to meet the congressman, all of his staff, all of the social network that is within the campaign world, and that paid off for me tremendously. And so, I think that just controlling your expectations on that first role you get out of college, as well as kind of connected to that is being patient. People hiring sometimes move fast, sometimes move slow, and try your best. I know it's hard. I mean, if you have the opportunity for someone to help with residents and that kind of stuff while you're waiting, that's great. If you don't have that, then go get just a part-time job or a job just to get yourself through. But don't give up on preparing yourself into that job you want. And then again, to stack on that is apply, again, be practical about it, about what you're applying for based on what your resume is and what your level of experience is. But don't hesitate to apply for lots of stuff. Get your resume out there broadly. You might be surprised by who calls you back. And you might be surprised, you might look at it and go, oh, I don't think they would ever want me. Worst thing that can happen is you don't hear from them, whatever. Like, put your resume out there, put yourself out there as broadly as you want, and as on the jobs that you, one, want, and two, are qualified for the most part. And if you're slightly under, if they let you in an interview, then you can just impress them. Maybe they'll let you in. But that would be something that I would try. I think is well worth conveying to our current students when they are going into the job market in the next 6 months to 12 months.
Great. And one last question that I have for you, Josh. So you graduated in 2002. It was not long after 9/11. There was a bit of there was the dot-com recession, but not all industries were affected the same way. But you worked through fairly early in your career through the recession in 2008. As we enter an uncertain job market and potentially a recession, if that hasn't been declared yet, what words, maybe not advice necessarily, but what words of encouragement or what words of encouragement do you have for students that are preparing to enter an uncertain job market after you've kind of gone through that and gone through searching for jobs in a time after 9/11 when things just life in America just changed a lot?
Yeah, it did. And we absolutely will see that here. So, I feel like, at that time, I did my best to just make ends meet and, do my best to get myself through it to the next job. I didn't mention it. It was a small blip in my professional career, but I think at this moment might be important is between campaign jobs, I did take a job. It was for a nonprofit called Independent Colleges of Washington, who UPS is a part of. But I didn't really enjoy that job, but it paid my rent. It got me through. And while I was there, I was sending out my my resume and my social network out and saying, hey, I want to do this. I want to be doing this. And I wasn't, I was willing to just take what I needed to get through. And then at the same time, not give up on knowing that, hey, like every other recession and similar situation in the history of our country, we will get through it. Our economy will recover, and there will be jobs for us. Jobs may look different. Fortunately, I think a lot of us, especially our students coming out, are very comfortable with technology. That's going to be a tremendous. I think we were using it plenty before this. It's going to be a lot of our professional life coming out of it as well after this experience. So, I would say, just as best as you can, don't give up on trying to find that job that you want, while also taking what you need to take to be able to, like I said, make ends meet and just keep the job rolling. Plus also just to keep yourself busy. That's important too. And you never know who you might meet through some of these jobs that you may not have originally thought about taking or being a part of. You might be surprised by that. But like I said, and I will finish on, and I've started on this, but I want to finish on it because it's so important. Now more than ever, relationships, social networking, having people in the professional roles that you want to be part of, knowing you, even just knowing you exist, that they got your resume, the job opens up, you're on their mind. That now more than ever is important. It doesn't matter if there's not a job opening right now. There could be in 6 months, and you will be on their mind versus someone else. If you spend the time now to go talk to them, get to know them, ask them questions, and just let them know what your interests are, and that's going to pay off for you.
Cool. I appreciate that. I think it's important for students and everyone to know that, yeah, these situations might cause a little bit of a shift, but ultimately, after recovery, what comes next can look a lot like what you were hoping for, anticipating before that recession, before that blip happened. So
yeah,
that's really good advice, Josh. Well, thanks so much for joining me. Appreciate your time, Josh. I know you're just talking. Sounds like you've got a busy week ahead, or some busy couple of days ahead, as you all are making adjustments based on different information coming from the governor's office. So I appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, things changing a lot, so we're doing our best to be nimble and get, like I said, communicating to folks I work for, so they know how to operate best in this new environment. It's a lot going on, but I'm grateful, Jake, for you asking me and taking the time to do this. I find whatever I can do to help our students understand what the professional life is like. I'm only one path of thousands, tens of thousands out of UPS, but mine, it hopefully can help some out there. And again, I'm happy to meet with students, anybody who's interested in what I do, from both political realm as well as a nonprofit realm. I'm happy to talk to either that are interested in those kinds of things as a profession. So Jake's got my information. Just let me know if I'd be happy to grab a cup of coffee and talk.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Josh. And for our audience, feel free to contact me if you'd like to get in touch with Josh to follow up more. Thanks to everyone who was watching this Ask a Logger interview. For more information about how our office and CES can support your career development, visit pugetsound.edu/CES. You can schedule an appointment with a career advisor like me, and we've got people here to help support you through this process. So thanks for watching.